From the darkest corners of the podcast dungeon, you have come across another goddamn horror podcast with Graham Faye, Jonas Barnes, and Ryan Danley.
Welcome, everybody, to yet another goddamn horror podcast. I am one of your hosts. I am Ryan Danley, coming to you from Portland, Oregon, where it is nighttime and probably raining or something, but it's dark, so I don't care. Jonas, how are you doing?
It's good. Brooklyn today was not bad. It was definitely a better day than the last one. Yesterday we were just completely fucking rained out, and today it was actually really nice out. It was 60 degrees, which is like a positive, but also that just means the earth is dying. So, you know.
I saw some TikToks today of people kick flipping where the CEO was shot. That's like a thing now. Just to like do a kick flip.
Oh yeah, dude. People are all about it. Yeah. There's all sorts of like pro graffiti around. Just like, it's good. Fucking great.
Very hard laughter.
It's fantastic.
Graham, how's the other side of Brooklyn?
I'm dead inside. I don't know. I have questions for each of you, actually.
Okay,
specific questions.
Okay.
Jonas, tell me about Bayview Entertainment. What is this? Do you know anything about this? It's all over Screenbox. I haven't watched a movie. It's like 50% of the movies.
Yeah, Bayview Entertainment is it's the best way to put it. They're not like a full-on B-movie distributor like The Asylum, but they're not a major distributor either. They're like mid-grade. So, like, B-movies with a better budget.
Right. Are any of them good?
Yeah, a lot of them are. A lot of them are super solid.
Really?
Bayview Entertainment is a good... I would say they're a good distributor. They pick good movies. They're not one of the ones that pops up where you're just like, ah, shit, that one's going to be a coin flip. Like, you got a good chance of getting a good movie with them.
Really? Because I started watching one and I was like, this is not good. And I turned it off. And then, like, every bad movie looking... Anyway, that's good. If you have any specific titles, let me know, because I want to break through that. I have something stuck. Every time that whoosh wave comes up, it says Bayview. I'm like, fuck this. Because it just seems so cheap and, like, weird.
There's certain ones, like,
also,
if you see Voltage Entertainment come on, it's definitely like a coin flip. Voltage is one of those ones where it's just like, oh,
yeah,
Gravitas
I knew about
Ventures.
Voltage. Yeah,
Gravitas
I like
Ventures.
Gravitas. I feel like Gravitas actually I hit a lot on.
Yeah.
Ryan, where's Josh Lobo?
I don't know.
He directed I Trapped the Devil.
Yeah, I know who he is.
And then, okay, what has he done? I'm asking you specifically.
Well, he did.
Where is he? What's going on?
Why do you want me? Why are you asking me this? Why did you?
You're the one that usually has
everybody else.
Yeah, you're the one that usually has the knowledge. If
I've literally asked everybody
the one.
else.
Yeah.
I
don't usually have the weird one.
Isn't he is he doing the new American Psycho? Is that what he's doing? Or no, he's doing something. I can't remember what it is. But he's doing why? What's up?
No, that's the new American Psycho.
I don't know. I just love
Luca Guarnicelli.
Oh, that's right.
The fuck his name is.
I fucking love I Trapped the Devil. It's one of my favorite movies, especially Christmas. I forgot it was a Christmas movie. Well, it's so fucking good.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I Trapped the Devil's fantastic. I'm sorry I dropped the ball. Well,
then he just disappeared. Yeah. 2019.
Oh, so you're asking me where he is?
I think Jonas found him.
Oh, he's living. Yeah, he's living in my spare room. Are you ready for our guest today, everybody? Or just ask me.
Yeah, we are.
I have more random questions. You can prep me for these questions, so I don't seem like such an idiot.
No, we're supposed to sound like idiots every now and then. That's part of it. That's part of the fucking prep. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, you always sound like the smart one, so I gotta take you down a peg.
He did. He had to take you down a notch. That's what it was.
Yeah, well, because I'm real smart. You should see my credit score. Anyways, I'm really, really excited for this guest. I've been a fan of his for a while now, and we have I've been talking to Jonas and Graham about this. My goal of 2025 is it's going to be the year of the book. And that doesn't just mean me reading books and writing books. It means insisting that the people in my life read more books. And I have one of my favorite authors on here, favorite horror authors, author of The Exorcist House, Mean-Spirited, Anathema, and like 20 other books. Welcome, Nick Roberts. Nick, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
2020 might seem like, I don't know. It's kind of right. Like how many? What do you got total? Like you got.
It feels like more than it really is. I've been writing professionally since 2020, and I have 7 books out, and I've written a ton of short stories. So like doing those in 4 years makes it feel like it's more than it is. But yeah, I'm aiming right now for like 3 novels a year, like full size novels, because I'm writing full time right now.
So all right, let's back up. Okay,
that's Stephen King pace.
No, Stephen King writes 1 a year. That's his contract, is 1 a year.
Oh,
and yeah, it's 1 a year. That's what he does. He just writes 1 book a year. Not the jest. I mean, that's still incredible. I mean, like, some people have written, Harper Lee wrote 1 book. You know what I mean? Like, some people we'll never see the winter in Winterfell. You know what I mean? Like, some people.
1 Stephen King novel is like 4 regular novels.
Yeah, exactly. So that is a wicked awesome goal, because that is particularly with the way you write is I don't know, like it's amazing, because the books that you write are full and good and great, and like have like great like they're like really approachable, and like they read quickly, but they're still like solid. They're not just like airport books, you know what I mean, of like nothingness. It's not like Dean Koontz. I'm not trying. I will try not to shit on other authors. It's really hard but I am not, because I love all sorts of books, and there are books for everybody, and that's
yeah.
And if you enjoy Dean Koontz, read Dean Koontz. That's please enjoy it and just keep your brain working. But the books you write are thoughtful and thick, and thick meaning like the storyline has depth and energy and characterization and all of that stuff. And
he's saying they have big book energy. So it's
because I got introduced to you through The Exorcist House, which I just loved, and I don't know. Why don't you how do you get into this pathway? How do you start going from 2020, which for some reason in my brain was just last year, but is now almost 5 years ago. But how do you go from 2020 to not having anything professionally to now writing 3 books a year?
So I was working as a teacher, and then my first year after teaching was the summer of 2019. And I'd wanted to be a writer my whole life. I actually wanted to be a filmmaker, and I started off writing screenplays, and I made like movies on VHSs growing up with my friends. That's what we do in high school. So I always had like this desire to create things and tell stories. And then, in 2019, I finished my first year teaching, and I had never written anything professionally. I never sat down to actually try. And I had a buddy that I graduated from Marshall University with. He was the only other male in my English department, and he was a Marine, so we bonded like right off the bat. Anyway, he became the editor of the Blue Mountain Review literary magazine, and he just randomly emailed me, and he said, "Hey Nick, I know you used to talk about writing creative stuff. I'm now this editor. I'm looking for content. Do you want to try to make a short story? If it sucks, I'll tell you it sucks. If it's good, I'll publish it." And that was like my first challenge, like put up or shut up. Like I've been wanting to do this. I have my foot in the door. And I sat down and I wrote a short story called The Deal. And it was about a drug addict in his 20s who saw no way out, so he hired a hitman to come and kill him a year from now if he didn't sober up and was living a happy life. He had like these certain goals that he wanted to achieve. So I felt like that was literate, quote unquote, literary enough to make the cut for this magazine. And he accepted it. And then once I got that publishing credit, it was like crack. I was like, I need to get another thing published. This feels cool. It feels tangible. It feels real. Growing up in West Virginia, like writing as a profession did not seem like something that could happen. So, like I said, 2019, first summer off as a teacher, I Google what's the average length of a horror novel. And I think it was like 80 to 90,000 words. So I said, okay, if I sit down and write 1,000 words a day, which, double spaced is about 3 to 4 pages. If I can do that every day for the whole summer, I'll have a first draft of a novel. And I was militant about it. I got up, I exercised in the morning, and I sat down in front of the computer at like 10 a.m. And I did not get up, even use the bathroom, until I hit that 1,000 word mark. And luckily, because I worked out before, I was like jacked up on pre-workout and caffeine, and my brain was on fire. So I wrote this novel called Anathema. And that's how the first one came about. And that was sort of my routine as I was a teacher, was to write a novel over the summer, kind of tinker away at short stories throughout the school year. Mm-hmm. And I was also working on my doctorate at the time, so having to write a dissertation and having a family and 3 kids, I don't see how I made it through it compared to my life now.
So
that's awesome.
It's absolutely great. And I got to tell you, whatever was going on in your brain to write Anathema, because Anathema is a great book. I love Anathema. It's actually probably my favorite thing that you've read. It is, but it's dark. I mean, it is like, like there's no sunshine at the, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's a, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it doesn't, like, all the things you don't want to happen, and it is so, like, where do you so you're sitting there, you haven't been a writer, you haven't done anything, and you're like, you've been writing like some short stories, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna pound out 1,000 words, and for anybody who doesn't write, 1,000 words is pretty obtainable, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a freelance writer, and I write satire things, and they have to be in between like 350 to 400 words, and I can pound that out.
Yeah,
like in a quick sitting. But like, so like, how was the? Because I don't know how you write, but like when I write, I'm sort of in that character. The transformation of like going from that to writing a novel and like living these people's lives as they're going through such turmoil. Did that affect you somehow? Did that, like, I mean, because it's a hardy book. I mean, it's and it's very tight and very written, and it was real punchy, and it kind of gave me, like, oddly enough, it kind of gave me like The Shining vibes, as in, like, not necessarily like The Shining, but in the, like, I've been stewing on this sort of energy for a long time, and now I'm going to spill it into here. You know what I mean? Like, it's because it's quite a book to enter the frame. You know what I'm saying?
I've never had that comparison to The Shining, but now that you mention it, I'm thinking of Jack Torrance and the Brian, the character from Anathema. That whole trope of trying to start over.
Yep,
that's interesting. But okay, so Anathema is very autobiographical, mm-hmm. as terrifying as that may sound. So I am a person in recovery. I've got in April, I have 13 years sober. When I wrote Anathema, I got sober in 2012, so I was 7-8 years sober, and I was sitting down and I was thinking, all these shows and movies and books that I read that have people in recovery, like their main character arc is will they or will they not relapse? And that's like the opposite of recovery for me. Like if you're sober, it's not like you're white knuckling it through the day. You're not a miserable son of a bitch. You've moved on past that. You can deal with the horrors of real life and not think about using. And I really wanted to depict the main character like that. So that's how I came up with the character of Ellie. And so my wife and my stepson, we lived in a little subdivision, and I modeled Anathema and River's Edge subdivision based on where we lived at the time. We lived in this townhouse that had a neighbor on both sides. We had, friends on one side that were my son's age, and we had this reclusive young woman who lived next door. And we lived there for a few years, and she gradually got more and more reclusive. And when COVID hit, we didn't see her at all. And we found out that she had some mental illness issues going on. She had a caretaker, her uncle, who would come by and just drop off groceries on her porch. She wouldn't even come out during the day to get them. She would only come out at night. So, like, I remember coming home one night from work, and this may have been when I was delivering pizzas, actually, before I was teaching. But I was coming home late, and I remember I pulled in the driveway, and the headlights, as I turned into my driveway, hit the front of my house and her house. And I just saw her pale arm withdraw back in the door with the groceries. And it just, like, sent a chill up my spine.
Fucking nightmare fuel already.
Yeah, and the way those condos, those townhouses were set up in the backyard, it was like a shared courtyard, and all the kids would play kickball and baseball and stuff. Any ball that went up on her porch, because it was like a elevated porch, that ball was gone. Like, I could walk out on my porch and smoke a cigar and look over, and it looked like a McDonald's ball pit.
Shit.
So,
Sounds like a horror version of The Sandlot.
exactly. So as I was delivering pizzas, I remember I would listen to classic rock all the time, and my mind idly would just think of different scenarios and stories. And the whole story for Anathema sort of just fell into my lap with those three things. I pulled into my subdivision, and I wanted to tell that story of that person in recovery. I wanted to tell a story of that person going to this new place where there's just this absolute evil that they have to deal with. And then that's kind of where I, embellished the neighbor in real life. Of course, she wasn't anything like Marin is in the book, but I just drew off that. But the third element
that would actually be kind of hilarious if you're like, and then she just started like sneaking in my house and talking to my child.
Yeah.
So you mean like Santa?
Exactly.
Yeah, the third element was the soundtrack. I remember just pulling in the subdivision, and When the Levee Breaks by Led Zeppelin was playing on the radio, and we lived right beside a river. And I was like, okay, this could. If I kind of had this story of this family moving in beside this crazy lady, and the craziness just gradually ramps up until it gets very dark, and it's kind of like parallel with this incoming flood that we know is going to happen. So, like, the whole time I wrote that book, I listened to When the Levee Breaks by Led Zeppelin while I was typing, and it just kind of kept that mood for me. So, yeah, that's basically how Anathema came about. My wife and my mom like to say that I just didn't really come up with anything original. I just took everything that happened right in front of my face and put it on paper.
They need to know a little trick about writing, which is that's a lot of it. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, not to mention Stephen King again, but like, I mean, he wrote Pet Cemetery after his kid almost was run over by a semi, and then he was like, "Well, what would I do?" You know what I mean? Like, my kid would be dead, and it would be terrible, and then I'd have to try to bring him back. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, they fully understand it now, but yeah, that first, I remember like even depicting people in recovery. I was just so nervous at first about like what my friends would think, like what my wife would think. Am I going to screw this up? And when we get to the really dark, gory parts, in Anathema, that I had to go there to serve the narrative authentically. I had to go to those spots.
Yeah.
But when I approached those spots, I remembered this quote from Clive Barker where he said, if you're going to go there unapologetically, or it's going to come off as disingenuous. If you're half-assed about it, it's going to repel people. But if you if you convince them that this is necessary to serve the narrative, then you can get away with anything. And that was kind of my mantra. I just wrote it for me, not thinking or caring what anyone else would think. That got me through writing that.
Jonas and I are both stand-up comics, and actually the same thing applies probably to all art, that if you're going to tell a joke that you're like uncomfortable with, you have to tell it with your whole face.
Absolutely.
You have to like say it to the back of the room, because the second you don't have confidence, even if it's just the just a minor like lost in that, you lose the you know what I mean? Like, it's everybody can just feel that. So
I mean, we're both stand-up comics, and we're also both in recovery. And recovery is also one of those things too, where like when you make jokes about it, like it's one of those things that when you think about it, you have to understand and think about how you're portraying recovery, portraying sobriety. Like, there's tropes about it. There's ways that you can approach it that make it, that can demonize it, make it sound shitty, make it sound good. Like, there's all sorts of things you can do about it. And I think it's also one of those things that when you joke about it, you do have to go there.
Yep.
Like, you have to go as, if you're going to make a joke about that, you're going to make a joke about addiction or, like any of those things, like you got to fucking commit to it. Because if you don't commit to it, it comes off awful. It comes out real bad.
Yeah, you have to lean into it, because if you don't, people will sense that you morally think it's wrong, and then they'll feel uncomfortable. But if you lean into it and you're fully confident in it, then they're like, oh, they know that this is a joke and it's a dark humor and we can laugh at it. That makes them feel comfortable.
100%.
Absolutely. And and I mean,
I really want to read this now. I love the idea of it being like the other side of somebody in recovery. Like, instead of like the constant, like, going to meetings and all that and thinking about it every day and it really weighing on you. It's been the opposite for me. I don't even really consider recovery. I went to the hospital and they were like, if you drink again, you might die. And I was like, okay. And like, I don't even know what day that was. Like, I don't count the days. I think it was 8 years ago. Like, because once it was passed, like, now I'm like, all right, well, I have to deal with reality raw. And I thought more about that than I did about going back to drinking. I was like, fuck, reality is a bitch. I got to deal with this now. So I kind of just forgot about self-medication and stuff. So yeah, I'm really interested in that. That aspect of it.
The book is really good. I kind of figured when I was reading it that you were had some relationship with recovery, because if there's one thing media gets really wrong, is recovery. There's like a media meeting You know what I mean? Like the media has created readings, and this is what they
Yeah.
look like, and this is what they are. And then when you get to recovery, it's real different than that. And which is fine, but I think it's always like a little shocking. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I think the one consistent is coffee, but so like I knew that was it. And then the language you used was really obvious about it, and I think those honest portrayals are just so important because plenty of people in recovery and plenty of people with drinking or drug problems are actually just people who just struggle with one part of their life. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and I'm glad that and which was funny because that's kind of where Stephen King was just coming with The Shining too, because he was like it's about alcoholism, about all those things. So like I don't mean to keep bringing up. I'm not gonna I like Stephen King, but I like a lot of other shit too. But it's but like you really nailed that book. So
Thank you.
And I think when you have people representing something like that and representing something so serious in a life, it adds to the gravity of those books. And Anathema is, I mean, it's a book with a lot of gravity. I mean, there's a lot going on, and now the Exorcist House is maybe more. I like an Anathema, like I like the length, I like the that's more my. But Exorcist House is sort of like he sort of world built a whole different thing, and that had to be a completely different undertaking than.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because it's more like horror novel proper in a good way. You know what I mean? So.
Yes, even with Anathema, I set out with the goal of whether it was conscious or not. So I don't even want to say it was a goal. I just always had this tendency to write cinematically. I write in like a 3-act structure, and it's like when I sit down to write, I just kind of close my eyes for a second, especially if I'm starting a new novel. I'll close my eyes for a second and I'll think, what is the most badass opening of a horror movie I can come up with right now? And I'll sort of just start typing, and that's just my process. Like I come up with that opening, and with that prologue, like once that prologue's over, I picture like the title card of a horror movie hitting, and with I did that with Anathema. I did it with the Exorcist House, and Anathema. It's a lot, like you said, it's a lot darker. In tone, it's similar to like a Pet Cemetery or like a Hellbound Heart. So, I personally exorcised a lot of demons in writing it. So by the time I came up for my second book, and once Anathema was released in January of 2020, I had a lot of events and signings lined up locally, and then COVID hit and like killed everything. And I was distraught because I had a publisher who actually picked it up and was doing things, and I was pretty upset. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to write the next one. So I ended up winning the debut author or debut novel of the year at the Horror Authors Guild Award for Anathema, and that kind of gave me a second wind to write The Exorcist House. And with that one, I wanted to kind of go the opposite route of Anathema. If Anathema is dark and more literary and deals with like more mature themes, I wanted to have that fun, spooky, like roller coaster ride through hell experience with The Exorcist House. I wanted it to be more in tone with like The Conjuring and Insidious and Sinister, those types of movies. And honestly, I was really inspired by the book House of Leaves in the way that it deals with space. And so like that's what got me thinking of The Exorcist House. The first thing I thought about was a farmhouse that I really did visit in the 90s when I was a kid. My uncle owned this farmhouse, and I just remembered that it had just this beautiful beautiful setting, beautiful scenery, nice little farmhouse, but the basement was creepy, and I just always in the back of my mind thought like that'd be a cool place to tell a story. And people who aren't from West Virginia, and I didn't realize this until a lot later in life, people who aren't from West Virginia, like, are sort of fascinated by the beauty of the Mountain State, and we kind of take it for granted. Like, I walk out and I see like these rolling green hills and the whitewater rapids, and being 10 miles away from a big city. I didn't like think anything of it, but like once I left there and saw kind of West Virginia from another person's perspective, it was like almost like folk horror. It was like this foreign exotic land that I could play around in.
Sure.
So then I set the Exorcist House in 1994 at this farmhouse in West Virginia, and I just said, okay, I'm going to write this prologue. And I wrote the prologue about this old man sitting on, like he's sitting on a tree stump by his campfire, smoking a pipe. And I was like, okay, what's going on in this guy's mind right now? Okay, he's this aged exorcist who's lived this full life, and there's something demonic in his house. This is his last stand. He's going to go in there and face it. And that's the prologue. And then cut to chapter 1, we have a family moving into this empty farmhouse, and they soon find out that it belonged to this quote-unquote backwoods exorcist, and he sort of maybe brought his work home with him.
The idea of a backwoods exorcist, by the way, is like one of my favorite things, and I think it's like
it's a cool trope.
It really is, because it's kind of like it breaks away a little bit from like the classic like exorcism vibes of like the Catholic Church and the bureaucracy of that and stuff like that. And I'm fine with all that. Like, you know what I mean? I've watched a million of those movies, but I like the idea of like there's just a few like priests who like go and then there's this dude and like, you know what I mean? And like they kind of deal with it. And I like it, and I love that you mentioned House of Leaves. And if anybody doesn't know, House of Leaves is a really amazing book by Mark Z. Danny Linsky. It's really like one of the best horror novels ever written. So, and now that you say that, it makes sense, because the house is a character in and of itself in your book. And so I really enjoyed like that aspect of it, because like you were able to like really build this like cool little world off of like the idea of that, which was like, it's kind of fun to read something that sort of upsets the normal narrative. It's like you know what I mean? Like there's so much so much of like, oh, we send the Catholic priest in and and I got a personal thing going about like what happens after that and like all these things, and it's just like that different idea was able to bring to it, and it's really like it's really just a solid it makes you really want to read what's going to happen, you know.
Yeah, thank you. That actually caught a lot of shit for that, or either it not being religious enough or it being too religious. And like I can watch all these exorcism movies where the Catholic priests come in and save the day, and I just look at that as like a subgenre. Like I don't like it doesn't personally offend me, but you know, I'm bringing my own experience to the movie or the book. So I can look at that as just characters and lore, like just vampire mythology, I guess. You know, they all have their own set of rules. So I didn't think twice about having the Catholic priest character in it, but I did want to hit home on more so the power of belief rather than ritual as far as combating evil. And that's where kind of Merle, the old backwoods exorcist, even though he's not an ordained clergyman, he believes in something that can he believes in a goodness that can take down this evil that he's had to face. And we actually go way back more into his life with the sequel.
So I haven't read the sequel. It's on I have to read, like, I can read like 2 books of somebody at a time and then I do something different, and it's just kind of like and unfortunately there's just so many good books to read. It's really a drag. But I feel like so are you talking, so I'm at war with, we'll get this little sidebar, I'm at, like, when you say you caught crap, was it on Goodreads? Is that where you caught crap?
You mean Book Yelp?
Book Yelp, the Better Book Bureau. I don't
really remember, because I don't. With my first book, when it got published, I did go and like look at reviews because I wanted to see what people thought.
Of course, you couldn't not.
Yeah, but with my second one, I was like, I'm not going to do that. Like, that's not for me. I don't care about that. Now, the reviews I will see are the ones that get posted in like Facebook groups that I'm in.
Sure.
And they just naturally come up on my timeline, or I see it on TikTok. Some are negative, some are positive. But yeah, I don't know where I saw it. It may have been like an Amazon review or something, but it was like, yeah, it was one way or the other. People were just. And it was not the majority.
That's good, because I will tell you right now, like I read Goodreads and I'm on it, and I feel like my job on Goodreads is to sort of like battle every, because I'll read like I just read and just absolutely loved I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones.
Oh yeah,
such a great book. Did you read it?
Yes, and I just read his new one, The Buffalo Hunter.
And he is. I just don't know what you could complain about in these books. Like, I just don't know. And I just went to throw on a thing, and people are like, did not finish 15%. And you're like, hey, if you did not finish a book, don't leave a review. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
then
no reviews.
You can't speak to something you didn't finish.
That's like walking out on The Sixth Sense before the reveal at the end and writing a review.
Be like, the dialogue between the mom and Bruce Willis was basically non-existent. It's but I read all these reviews, and it's just like everybody is so hard on these books, and it's just like it's just such a weird thing to be hard on, because maybe it's because I know some authors, and I know they're just people, and everybody's just trying to, I don't want to say trying their best or whatever, but it's just it's all really subjective, and it's all very hard to do. You know what I mean? And it's all this and that. So my generally I try to just leave good reviews, but that's my thing. But even if I'm critical of one things about it, I put it in this is just my opinion, and this is this thing. And so when people come in, it's a pet peeve of mine. Everybody's a critic, and it seems to me that if you like what Yelp did to restaurants, Goodreads does to books, and it's and I feel like when they're they used to just I'm not a fan of running things through big newspapers and things like that. I hated that those people in the politics of that decided what people could read, and I do really think that the idea of having human beings just reviewing stuff is great, but also remember, we're not book critics, and that those people are critics. Those people who are professional critics had a code. You know what I mean? You couldn't shit on a restaurant if you were a food critic if you didn't eat there twice, and you couldn't you know what I mean? And there's just there was a code to all these things, and now you just have everybody these sentences just seem run on, and and it's just you know what I mean? And it's just okay. I mean,
I want to mention this about criticism, actually, because when it comes to movies, books, any kind of art criticism, I think what we talk about, where we meet movies where they're at type of thing, it's kind of I think it's a similar thing with a book. If you're reading a book, and you said, if you get halfway through a book and you're no, I tapped out halfway through, and then you write a review, you're an asshole. There's no way to get around that. You're an asshole if you do that. That's just you it's just you wanting your voice to be heard, just to be a dick. Okay. But if you go all the way through a movie and you leave a review that's just well, that book sucked, then dude, fuck your review. That's not a review. Like that's that's not a review. If you're actually gonna leave something and talk about it, like make a point. Like actually talk about things like this worked for me, this didn't work for me, like that type of thing. And I think people lose that when they go on and they do reviews of stuff. When they do reviews specifically of art, I think they just forget that part of it. That's like a lot of like time and effort and everything went into this thing. So like at least meet it at that point and like give it the same amount of effort. Like if you're going to actually put that opinion out there, like give enough of a fuck to actually put information out there and not just be like,
I have a lot
terrible.
to say about criticism and critics, and none of it's good.
Most of them just want to hear their own.
All that being said, though,
you celebrate something, and if you don't like it, move on.
Right.
If somebody asks you your opinion, give your honest opinion. That's all you can do. I don't volunteer my shitty opinions. That's where I'm at.
That being said, I don't know how often you look, Nick, but you actually your books are really well rated on Goodreads. Like Exorcist House is over 4, Mean Spirited is over 4, Anathema is right at 4, Dead End Tunnels over 4, Exorcist House Genesis, the sequel, is almost 4.5. I mean, so that's good. I mean, all that being said, you kind of kill it out there. So good work.
Getting good props. Yeah, people are giving you you good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course I'll focus on the negative ones, but
Right,
of course.
We never do that as creators. We never do that.
Right.
Here's the piece I've had to make with reviews and people, and I'll just use the term artist to encompass
Sure.
Film, writing, anything. Anytime an artist stands up and puts art out there in the world, I think it's the equivalent of being in the middle of a loud party where everyone's having a great time, and you stand up on the table and you turn off the music and you say, "Hey, everybody, look at what I have to say." If you're willing to do that, you have to be willing to take the shit that comes with it.
For sure.
Am I allowed to cuss on here?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We are another goddamn horror podcast. But yes, I appreciate it.
Okay. So if I'm putting myself out there, I have to have that callous, that tough skin to take it. And to play devil's advocate to that reader who doesn't finish a book and just goes on and says, "This book sucks, don't read it." They may have spent $25 on that book. They may have spent 3 hours of their time, of their lunch break. I don't know. They gave up something. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that they gave up something and was not rewarded in turn for that. Now, what they do with that is their right. That's their prerogative.
Sure.
Personally, I consider myself a reader first and foremost, and a lot of authors don't do that. Like, they will not review other books. I do, because that's kind of how I blew up in this Books of Horror Facebook group. Was I would write these detailed, lengthy reviews that I put a lot of thought into, and I got a lot of engagement with people, and I created sort of a fan base that way. And I just love talking books. I love talking movies, and I love talking honestly about them. And so, yeah, I do think that I definitely have a preferred way for someone to, do a review with constructive criticism, but that's not their responsibility. They don't have to do that. And anytime I get a bad review and it may affect me in some way, all I have to do is go to Kill a Mockingbird or Of Mice and Men on Goodreads and look at the 1-star reviews that all the classes have. and I feel a lot better. So,
Took the Lord of the Rings books and be like, one of these was real fucking boring. The other one's not bad, but like,
and like, listen, that is the absolute mature way to deal with it, and I am glad that you have found that piece with that, because that is a better way to look at it. I just get mad because I get excited about things, and I love being a fan. There was a book a book guy on TikTok that I follow, and he was like, "Oh, I just give out 5 stars all the time and everything." And I was like, and him and I had like a back and forth. I'm like, give out 5 stars. Like, it's cool to love things. And I just want to remind people that, like, if you're gonna it's cool to be okay with things. It's even cool to like say that you might be like, your opinion might not be, like, do I think Nick Cutter writes some of the best books out there? Absolutely. Do I think he uses too many metaphors? Maybe. But I don't need to like necessarily like, you know what I mean? Like I don't, like, I'm just not gonna go write that anywhere. I'm gonna be like, I love the truth. Although almost every other line is him comparing something to, like, he says something in there like the wind whipped by my legs, like ice cold tongue. So I was like, okay, buddy, like, I love it. It's great, but it's just funny. It's just funny.
I had a PR person reach out to me. I'm not going to say who it is because of the nature of the story, but I had a PR person reach out to me and said, hey, would you watch and review this movie? And I had reviewed some of their movies before, and I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And they've always been honest reviews. They weren't like 5 stars, but they were like, 3.5, 4 stars or whatever. And I watched this movie, and this is the first time that I've ever seen something where, like, as a person that was asked to review something, I have to admit that I kind of bitched out. And what I mean by that is that, like, I watched the movie and it was terrible. Like, it was bad. And it was an indie. And again, we meet movies where they're at, and I watched it as an indie, and I'm like, fuck, I really hated that movie. Like, I was trying to actually, like, legitimately trying to find things that I could be positive about, and there really wasn't much. Like, if I would have actually reviewed this movie, it would have easily been a 1 star out of 5 review. Like, I would have shit all over this movie. So I reached back out to the PR person. They said, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't want to review this movie because I really hated it. Like, I legitimately hated this movie. And they laughed and they said, you know what? I appreciate that. I was like, because I know it's an indie and I know that you guys don't have like money for marketing and shit like that. Like, and I understand that. So I would rather not go on a tirade about this movie and let you guys just find your audience, because it clearly wasn't me. But I also just didn't feel right just putting it out there and being like, this movie was awful, like that type of thing. So it was like that.
Is that the movie you made me watch?
No, it was not Porcelain, Ryan. But no.
I said that.
Yeah, no, it wasn't anything like that. It was just like, I think it was the first time where even like as somebody was asked to critique this and review it, I was just like, I don't actually feel comfortable doing that now, because there was nothing positive that I could find about it. It was just like, I can't do that.
I'm pretty sure you were talking so much shit about that movie in the chat that I went and watched it.
No, it wasn't. No, this one I didn't. I did not, and it was not Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Like, it was not the one.
No, I love that. I'm the backer of Winnie the Pooh.
No, I was giving you shit. No, I didn't tell either of you guys about this movie because it was one of those where it just like it hit me. I was like, nope, I'm just not going to do it.
I've been in that same situation. I get asked to blurb books at least once a day, and I would say if you would go on Goodreads and look at my profile and look at how I've initially reviewed books, it's a lot more brutally honest. Now, as I've become friends with the authors, like big traditionally published authors in these big houses that, I find it a little bit more difficult to be as blunt as I once was. But I got sent this book and I read it, and I couldn't find anything to say positive about it. and I did not want to put my name on it. And I felt so bad. And I messaged the guy and I said, look, I will go on Goodreads and I will mark that I read the book. I won't rate it or review it or anything. I'll mark that I read it. Maybe that will get you some exposure. But if you want me to write a review, I'm just going to tell you it's going to be negative. If you don't want me to write anything, I won't. And I mean, he was pretty distraught over it, honestly. But he was like, "Yeah, just please don't write anything bad about it." So, yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean, and I get it, and it's hard because it's like, you know what I mean. And I think that like as you you are having great success with this, and then the stupid politics of it all. Like, I will take blunt shots at very famous comedians, lesser comedians publicly. You know, you gotta choose your avenues. You know what I mean?
I'll shit on a Blumhouse movie any day of the week if it's a bad Blumhouse movie. They've got enough money and enough clout for that, you know.
But I tweeted, back when I was on X or Twitter. This is so stupid. I'm like actively trying to get this movie made with Blumhouse, and Jason Blum put out this dumbass tweet about pro AI and how. No. I mean, he was like, check out this video that one of our creatives at Blumhouse made using Meta's AI, and it was just, I mean, it was just like a short AI film, basically. And the whole premise was, well, what if like underprivileged kids and people who don't have resources now have access to this? Imagine the creativity that they can do, broaden your horizons. Like that was what they were hitting you with, the emotional appeals of AI. And I just commented on there. I said, I forget exactly what I said, but I didn't think twice about it. It was just brutal. And I was like, please no. Like, I mean, I'd have to go back and look exactly what I said, but it was the kind of thing where if I'm trying to get this man to distribute my movie, I just shot myself in the foot for it. But at the same time, I don't want someone who's going to produce AI films making my movie.
Right.
So
exactly.
The AI movie from Blumhouse was actually the one I was talking about. That was the one that I actually most recently had shat upon quite heavily. It was a very bad movie. And I like some Blumhouse movies very much. But that AI movie that was called AI, it was Afraid, I think is what it was called. And I'm like, come on, guys. Yeah. Like, you just wasted a whole fucking cast.
Sinister last night. I mean, Jason Blum has made or produced, and I mean, he's put out some of the best horror.
Yeah.
But, you know, that his stance on AI, I hope he really reconsiders it. And the Five Nights at Freddy's fans on that thread really went after him. They were like, if you use AI on Freddy, we're not showing up for the sequel. Like,
good.
Yeah.
They might get his attention.
Who else are you reading right now? You reading what, like any book? We'll get to recommendations later, but just off the top of your head, any authors that you're really stoked on right now?
Yeah. So right now, I'm in this weird situation where I kind of started my own Facebook group that has kind of blown up, and I decided randomly at the beginning of the month to have an award ceremony, and it spiraled out of control. And particularly, I messaged Stephen Graham Jones and I said, hey, do you want to be the first recipient of this Lifetime Achievement Award? It's going to be called the Legend of Literature Award. Would you accept that? And he was like, hell yeah. So like once I said that like Stephen Graham Jones was a part of this thing, like thousands of submissions for best novel, best novella, best anthology, best single author collection all flooded into my little inbox that I created just for this little contest. And now I've had to assemble a jury to help me go through it. And so I'm like speed reading through a lot of these. right now I'm reading Eric LaRocca, one of his books, and
his
I'm a
books are
big
his books are just like You've Lost a Lot of Blood is one of my favorite books of all time, and he is just a I could sit down and I could write like a lot of different people. I'm not like a great writer or anything, but like I could sit down and I could make a book that was like this or this guy. LaRocca I can't do. You know what I mean? It's on some different shit. You know what I mean?
that's what I've heard, and that's what intrigues me. Now, I'm reading The Skin Was Once Mine and Other Disturbances.
Yeah, that's
because that's one of the ones that's on this award list. But Gage Greenwood, he's an indie author that's put out that keeps getting better and better. He just released this collection Levitating, and I think On a Clear Day You Can See Block Island is probably my favorite indie book of the year. I mean, if you want something with like raw emotion and solid characters with like terrifying stuff happening, you can't go wrong with that. It's almost like I want to say like a Bret Easton Ellis type of character situation with supernatural elements embedded into it.
Love it. That sounds actually like perfect for me. I am one of those people who grew up on Bret Easton Ellis and I mean maybe like
apologist. You mean?
No, I think Bret Easton Ellis is. I think him and like those guys really like him and Chuck P like really brought me into that whole like that sort of era of writing, and then from Bret Easton Ellis I went backwards and started reading like Joan Didion and like just all that different you know what I mean, and like those real like masterful like language people. So like I love the sound of that. I'm actually looking at it right now on here. I think but it's so he's an indie author. That's good. Have you read any like Laurel Hightower? You read any of her stuff?
I have not. She's been on my TBR forever, and it just anytime I get to certain authors, it's like, yes, I'm finally at this person, and then it gets usurped by something else.
Sure.
I'm trying to remember. Like, I think the two best books I've read this year are probably Stephen Graham Jones's The Angel of Indian Lake. I preferred that to I Was a Teenage Slasher, just because it was the third installment of the trilogy, and it kind of brought everything together, and it was more emotional than Slasher for me. But I love Josh Mallerman's Incidents Around a House. As far as just writing for a pure purpose of terrifying the reader, he put on a masterclass.
He really did, and that book is absolutely phenomenal. I read it earlier this year, and it's really like just like it is, and it's finally getting a lot of love out there right now, which is absolutely great because
it's my front runner for winning the Stoker this year.
Right.
So I went up to him in August, and I said I had the book, and I was like, Josh, I want to show you something. And I opened the book and I pointed at the first page, because the first page is just like the first chapter, which is a paragraph that says like something about Bella said goodnight to her mom and her dad. They said goodnight, Bella. And Bella says goodnight, Daddy, goodnight, Mommy. And then as they're walking out, she looks to the closet and says goodnight, other mommy. And that's the end of the one page. I said, Josh, you did in one paragraph what authors try their whole books to do. And I said that this is amazing. And I mean, so like the Stokers, they phrase their awards as superior achievement in fiction rather than best novel of the year.
Sure.
So that's why I would say like Incidents Around the House is a legit superior achievement in fiction, especially, I mean, in horror fiction. It just, and it already is getting made into a movie. I saw the casting call for Bella. They're looking for a young actress to play her. And Blumhouse and Atomic Monster are producing it.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, that sounds cool. Have you read anything? Have you read any of these Keith Rawson books? Fever House.
Everyone is telling me to.
Yeah, he's a friend of the show, and if you want like a fun ride, like a rock and roll like horror story with like there's gangsters, there's supernatural stuff, there's government conspiracy, there's rock.
It's the book that got me back into reading fiction.
Yeah.
I was after Bret Easton Ellis, I couldn't read fiction anymore. And I'm sorry, I don't like him at all.
Oh my gosh!
I know I'm in the minority, but
he almost.
I just read.
What did you say?
He almost caused my divorce because.
Oh really?
Yeah, I was up late on eBay one night and I saw a limited signed edition of American Psycho up for sale and spent way too much money and just bought it. And when I told my wife how much I spent on a book, she was not happy. But I was like, this is my prized possession. I bought a glass case. It's displayed. It's signed by Bret Easton Ellis. It's a special edition, so it's got a special cover signed by Ben Baldwin, and John Langan wrote the foreword to it. It's signed by him too. And it's number like 52 out of 200. I love it.
That's pretty cool. I think it's just a visceral thing for me. I hated the book and I hated the movie. So, but Devil, the Fever House, fucking. Now I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna read horror now because it's fucking great. So, yeah, that book I highly recommend, and I just started the sequel. I'm very excited.
Yeah, my buddy John Durgan, he's a fellow author. He has a Patreon, and he just did a group read on his Patreon of those books, and he immediately messaged me. He's like, "Dude, you got to check these out. They're great."
It's just reminds you of like. It's just like fun, you know what I mean? Like it's just like they're like fun horror books, and like they just I don't know, they just hit this weird note, and you're like, oh, these are so good. And
I like those books that can be fun and dark without being like overtly campy.
Oh, totally, absolutely.
Yeah,
no,
like I love like something with I don't know, like an Evil Dead type of vibe. Even though Evil Dead, is campy, but it's hard to find that balance between fun and legit, like rip out your soul horror. So,
Sure.
like, I guess Scream would be a good comparison. Scream's fun, but it is fucking brutal.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, and I think that's a great take on that. Like, yeah, you don't think of Scream as a as a hardcore like a slasher film, like you don't think about those parts, but like the whole thing is awful, you know what I mean? And it's
it opens with a teenage girl getting disemboweled in front of her fucking mom.
Right, exactly.
She gets hung from a tree and just showcased.
I bring it up all the time in Steven Spielberg's first major movie, Jaws. He feeds a 10-year-old kid to that shark. So some people got that in him. Do you think you can hang for the our Sinister Six questions? Or excuse me, we've changed
the kill list.
The kill list. I'm old. Are you down with the questions?
It's still new.
I have no idea what to expect, but hit me with it.
All right.
Fuck yeah.
All right. First one, Freddy or Jason?
Freddy.
Good call.
I expected that.
You want an explanation?
I mean, so here's the
you
thing.
Can answer it however you want.
You can give how much you want. Yeah, whatever you want.
You can take the question however you want.
Completely open to interpretation, and you can describe, you can explain or not.
You can pass.
Yeah, that's a tough one because if I'm comparing I'm just going to compare them on one movie. Okay, so Freddy in the first Nightmare versus Jason in Friday 2, because I think that's the best Jason. What he starts out with the bag on the head, and so yeah, I'm gonna say Freddy is brutal, sadistic, and I used to have bad insomnia. So the idea, I know how bad it sucks to be tired nonstop, and the fact that I wouldn't be able to go to sleep is terrifying enough. So add on to that the fact that I could die in my sleep. I want to give it.
Hell yeah!
Even though like I have more fun watching Jason, like I binge watched the series Friday the 13th, like not a lot, just in the background while I'm writing.
Yeah,
but yeah,
100%.
Freddy in Nightmare 1 is just a different beast.
Yeah, I hear you.
I love it. And I think as like, so I used to be kind of a Jason guy because I was a little like where I grew up, like all the cool kids who weren't even like really horror kids, started liking Freddy a real lot when he got funny.
It's been Freddy since day one. I don't know what he's talking about.
That's not true. That's not true. And
go back to the first one. Go back to that episode.
Okay, and then but I started liking Freddy. Graham and I have a war about everything, just so you know, Nick. But I don't know. I think in the end, like, I think it's just I think if you're a story-minded person, like Freddy's story is pretty fucking cool. You know what I mean? Like a dream demon, you're just like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, it's just a cool story.
And I might be a little biased. One of the first producer who picked up the film rights for Anathema was Jonathan Craven, and I got to get some inside scoop on. I got the fanboy about his dad with him.
That's amazing. Yeah, he would have to.
That's super cool.
He would have to like put duct tape over my mouth to shut me the fuck up. So yeah, I get that.
Yeah. All right. Number 2. What movie would you remake?
What movie would I remake? The Purge. The Purge has the best premise out of any horror movie in the last 20 years, and it just failed to live up to that premise of all crime being illegal for one day. And I get that it's Blumhouse and they had a micro budget and they had to film with what they had. And I'm not shitting on The Purge. It is what it is. But it's when did that come out? Like, I don't know, 15, 20 years?
Yeah.
I don't know. And I'm still not over.
That first one is it's a great premise, and then they were like, it's an invasion movie. It's a house invasion movie.
Literally all the sequels are better than the first one. All of
it's true. Because they leaned into the crime part.
Right.
Yeah, I would want to make it so depraved and scary and, really shine a light on human nature. And, it would be more Lord of the Flies-ish. So
love it.
That's what I'll go with The Purge.
I love it. That would, just a full-on like gruesome reboot of that would be amazing. If you could erase one movie from existence, what would it be?
Now,
doesn't have to be horror.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's tons of bad movies that I could erase from existence, but here's what I could do. I could take the utilitarian approach and erase a brilliant movie that inspired a shit ton of bad movies. I could erase my favorite movie from existence and take away and take one for the team and eliminate a bunch of Quentin Tarantino knockoffs. And just eliminate Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Wow, I do. Yeah,
that is
a great answer.
That is a great answer. Graham's answer was always that he would eliminate Scream just to see because he likes Scream, so it's a similar thing.
That was the first thing that popped in my mind.
That's amazing.
The wave of what happened next.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Scream completely changed the direction of horror, and yeah, I would love to see what happened if it didn't. All right, awesome, very close to. I love that. Number 4, Alien or Aliens?
Alien. Yeah, Alien. I'm so much more in. I mean, I love Aliens, of course.
For sure.
But Alien, I'm more chamber piece focused in my horror. I like being in the one setting. I like the claustrophobia. I like the slow reveal of the xenomorph. I love the first time I saw the chest burster in the kitchen scene. I love the fact that I think really had a surprise final girl when Tom Skerritt dies, and then Ripley takes over. So everything that Ridley Scott did with Alien is just perfection. Storytelling's visually, the sound design, yeah. And James Cameron had to like outdo that, which he damn near did. I mean, he did what he should have done. He didn't remake the first one. And as divisive as Rob Zombie is, The Devil's Rejects is one of my favorite films of all time because it's one of the best sequels, I think, of any horror movie, because it takes, House of a Thousand Rejects was its own thing. And then he completely switches gears and makes this movie The Devil's Rejects, which is this Western revenge road horror movie where you're now on the side of the bad guys. And I believe it's the first time Roger Ebert gave Rob Zombie 2 thumbs up and was like blown away that he was empathetic to these psychopaths. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, Alien.
Love it. Basement or attic?
Well, if I would be doing myself a disservice if I said attic, because so much horror I've made quite a good living from takes place in a basement. So I'll have to say basement for life on that one.
Yeah.
Perfect answer. Perfect reasoning. All right, last one. Favorite kill of all time?
I'm going to give you 2 because one's horror and one's not. The non-horror is in Pulp Fiction, and it's when Jules accidentally shoots Marvin in the face in the car.
So, yeah.
And
It's amazing.
I distinctly remember laughing hysterically at wanton violence for the first time in my life. And but yeah, in a horror movie, favorite kill, just off the top of my head, as much as I want to say Jason with the body bag, or Jason with the sleeping bag,
The sleeping bag.
I want to say that, but I also want to say the kill that you don't see in Saw, where Jigsaw at the end of Saw 1, spoiler alert if you haven't seen Saw 1, walked out on Adam, who's screaming to be let go, and he just says game over and shuts the door. And I remember seeing Saw in theater, and that was like one of my most amazing theatrical experiences, was seeing Saw 1 for the first time and being blown away by that ending and being like, oh my God, this guy lived, but now he's going to die in this room, in this dark room. So yeah, that's my cop-out answer. But yeah, Jason beating somebody against a tree in a sleeping bag, that's hard to beat. No pun intended.
It's pretty good. All right, that was fantastic. I'd say it's best one ever, maybe. Best kill list run. Wow. Said Alien. He picked this was all right up my alley.
So,
All right, what do we got now?
We got recommendations now. This has been such a fun episode, Nick. I feel like I could talk to you for like 40 hours. We didn't even get into movies, but like I feel like I could just keep talking to you about things.
Yeah.
And when Anathema Legacy comes out, maybe you should come back on. We can do it. So
Yeah.
how do you feel about that? You good with that?
Yeah, absolutely. It comes out January 17th.
Awesome. So that's actually right now. So that's absolutely
Pretty soon.
I've got the Exorcist House Resurrection coming out September of next year. I signed the contract. I haven't written a word of it, but it's coming.
Jonas, what do you got for recommendations, my friend?
For streaming, I am going to say go on to Tubi, check out the movie Brides of Satan. On physical media, I'm going to go with one of my favorite films of this year, which is Black Eyed Susan from a friend of the show, former guest Scooter McCrae. And this is a Vinegar Syndrome release. It's fantastic release, fantastic movie. Music, I'm going to recommend the band Samurai Pizza Cats. They have a new song that just came out. It's a fucking great name. They have a song that just came out called Super Zero, which is really fun. The entire music video is like it's like an AA meeting, but it's for like demonic superheroes. Like, it fucking rules. And yeah, that's what I got.
Graham?
Yikes. All right. Deus Irae. It's on Screenbox. It's Argentinian. It was directed by Pedro Cristiani. It's basically a classic Catholic exorcism type thing. There's kind of like the group that does it, but all the demons are from the Cthulhu mythology, so it's fucking amazing. It looks incredible. The special effects are wonderful. It's in Spanish, but fucking watch that shit right away. For this horror, because we got Christmas coming up. I Trapped the Devil by Josh Lobo with AJ Bowen, who he was in You're Next. He's in a lot of stuff, but fuck, that dude's a good actor, and he's really, really good in this. I don't think enough people actually. I didn't the first time I saw it. I also had forgotten that it was a Christmas movie, so I was very happy to get to watch it last night. And Carnage for Christmas just dropped on Shudder. It's by Alice Mayo McKay. She's a 20-year-old trans woman from Sydney, Australia. She's got 3 movies up there. T Blockers is up there. I've seen it. That's rad. Satanic Panic is another one. I haven't seen that one yet. But Carnage for Christmas fucking rules, and the lead is a badass, and it's like a weird Murder, She Wrote. It's fucking great. So check that out. And for music, just listen to Amani Coppola. I don't care. Nothing's good anymore.
Real quick, books. I'm going to recommend the Har by David Sodergren. Actually, anything he's written has been great, but this is an amazing love story. If you like horror, do you have you read any of his, Nick?
I haven't. I've seen that book pop up on my timeline so many times.
Yeah,
it's just another one that's in the pile.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. I read I literally will have 3 things going at once, and that's a pretty common thing for me to be reading 3 different books. But it's great. So yeah, it's hard to get to all. This is an older book of hers, but Laurel Hightower did Below, which is just a great novella monster thing, and it's absolutely fantastic. I am super geeked on all her work. Day of the Door is one of my favorite books this year. Her story Crossroads is absolutely fantastic. Movies, I'm going to suggest Megalomaniac. It's on Tubi. It is serious AF, so mind your trigger warnings because they don't play around in it, but it is a Belgian / French production. I think it's a Belgian movie made by the French. Something along those lines. The fuzzy line between Belgium and France will Be interesting to me.
You never know.
No, but that's a real thing. It's a real thing. But it's a so
I'm sure they both love that.
well, they listen to the show, so they can let me know. So that's where I am at with that. And as far as music goes, keep listening to just find all your favorite slam metal and let me know what it is, because I'm on a huge slam metal kick. Nick, what do you got?
Yeah, your all's movie taste is going to make me feel like a mainstream, basic ass horror fan right now. I wish I had so much more time to watch movies, because it's like my number one passion in life. It's just writing eats it up. But yeah, I'm just gonna say my favorite horror movie of the year by an inch is Late Night with the Devil, and I just fucking loved that movie. I loved the performances. I loved the direction. I think the lead actor should get nominated for all the awards. But yeah, Late Night with the Devil. I'm really into that. I'm into movies that show me things and tell stories in ways that I haven't seen a million times.
For sure.
And
Hell yeah.
I actually got this, like, I literally had to sneak out of my own house to catch like a midnight showing of it, because I never get to go see movies because I have kids and a wife and all that. So, and we don't share similar taste in movies. So it was just a fun experience to sneak out and go watch that movie.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, I'll say that for my movie. For music, it's been this month especially has been an amazing month for gangster rap, especially from Compton, because we've got Ice Cube, Kendrick Lamar, Snoop Dogg, and Dr. Dre all released new albums. And as I've been exercising this whole month, I've been joining either the Bloods or the Crips on any given day. So it's my music recommendation. Also, another movie
Love
that
it.
up this year was The Coffee Table. That one fucked me up.
Well, I love that you say that you're gonna say all these like mainstream ones, and then you go like,
yeah, that's an obscure one.
like the number one indie of the year, followed by like just this really brutal I think The Coffee Table. I love The Coffee Table because it's literally just like it's like, just let your spouse choose something, because if you make a stand,
yeah,
like look what happens.
If you're capable of watching that as a black comedy, it's so much more enjoyable. I mean,
oh my god, they don't really play it like a black comedy though. That's the problem. But like, the whole thing is they give you the worst possible beginning, and then you just white knuckle the rest of it.
It's like it could easily be directed by the Farrelly brothers, though.
Yeah, exactly.
I said that The Coffee Table was the series of unfortunate events that Lemony Snicket was talking about. So
it's like it's the most brutal of the Lemony Snicket stories for sure.
Yeah.
I think the true horror of it is taking a stand and buying something against your wife's will and having it really screw up.
Right. Be like, yeah, it's the biggest I told you so.
Yeah.
We'll agree that salesman got fired, right?
It's the worst I told you so.
Well, Nick,
that's great.
You are absolutely fantastic. Please, everybody, go check out Nick's books. He is they are great reads. They are fun reads. They are brutal. They are everything you want from a horror novel. If you are a fan of anything horror related, you're going to really enjoy it. It's I'm really excited to have had you on the show. I'm a fan, so thank you so much. And please come back, and we'll spend an entire episode about movies at some point, and we won't even talk about all these weird ass authors. Just write and read books. And thanks everybody for tuning in. We have a Patreon. If you go check out AGHP 666, patreon.com. We have everything from $1 to $20 deals, and so check that out. If you join on a high enough tier, you become a member of the Army of the Goddamned. And who are those, Graham?
Those fine young people, very good looking too. Michael, Drew, Stephanie, Katie, Chris, Alan, Bacon Bits, Angela, Jasmine, Jason, Jake, Vivian, Ron, Kristen, Manny, Coleman, Jared, Michelle, and Brandon.
Awesome. Love you all. United States still number one. UK still solidly in second place. Actually, more. UK is creeping up. Canada, you are now solidly tied with Australia for third place. Germany solidly sitting in their fourth place. New Zealand, we love you, but Australia and now Germany. I love you, New Zealand. You know how much I love you. You know how much I love your movies and your bands, and like you look beautiful there and everything. So tell a friend, get back up. I mean, like for a long time you were beating Australia, but now Australia's beating you, and I know how you feel about that. United Arab Emirates sitting right there, followed by China. Sweden solidly in there, Turks and Caicos Islands, and India and Mexico. Love you, Mexico. Poland, France, Netherlands, Czech Republic, Ireland. Thank you all so much for tuning in. It's the Christmas time. Please keep taking care of yourself. This time of year is very hard on a lot of people, and just know that we all need to do this together. So if you're struggling and you just need an ear, one of us, just reach out to us, and we love you. We all have to do this together, and please take care of yourself. And until we see you again, please start some fires and break some glass. Thank you.